The process of making records is like climbing a mountain. There are many different techniques and paths one could choose. We like to approach the making of each album in a different way, not only because it steers you toward a unique result, but also because changing the methodology is a challenge and it keeps you on your creative toes. After we reformed in 2014, our goal was to become an active, viable rock band again. We wanted to make new music because we were interested in making new music, and we still felt like we had something to say about the sound that we had developed on Fantastic Planet. Well, I had some musical memories before 12 years old, mostly pop AM radio in the 70s, because I was born in 67. But when I was 12, I got my first few LPs, vinyl LPs, which were the Cars' first record, the Elton John's greatest hits at the time. I think he's had like 4 or 5 greatest hits records, but the kind of iconic one from the 70s where he's wearing the white, Van Halen 1 and 2. So those maybe 5 vinyl records, that sort of 12, 13 period was like, I really started listening to those records on headphones. And it wasn't just a casual like, oh, I'm super into this band or this song. It was like, I think I was getting pretty analytical even then, like really kind of listening to oh, there's a guitar over here and it's playing this, and there's a guitar over here and it's not playing that, it's playing something different and it's a slightly different sound. Still hadn't picked up an instrument, but it was, diving pretty deep into the sounds of those albums. The first time I picked up a guitar, I was 3 months shy of 18. So there was that first year or two of just kind of, casually practicing after school. And then I kind of discovered The Cure by hearing their current stuff on the radio, which was more like Head on the Door, I think, at that point. And I loved it, and I looked that up, bought it. But then I also discovered some previous albums which were really big eye-openers for me, because I just had no idea that people were making music that was so dark like that and just so intense, and so obviously not caring about having any sort of commercial success, It was like, whoa, this is just intense. And so that just opened my mind up to a whole different universe of music, and that's when I started getting interested in trying to write my own songs. So yeah, it was that kind of early mid-period Cure albums that had me writing what would become the first handful of Failure songs. The new Failure record, In the Future Your Body Will Be the Furthest Thing from Your Mind, very long title. We still felt like there was something to say in the guitar, bass, drums world. It's like us trying to still be Failure, but kind of push the envelope a little bit and progress with our sound. So the new record, the first song especially on the new record, Dark Speed, is a pretty big departure for us. So yeah, I mean, that was a song that we've never had a song that's basically just bass and drums. and whisper vocals almost, you know, that's something we'd never explored before. Also, the other thing about that song, the drums themselves, lightly played drums, the whole song. Never done that before. Like, lightly played drums in a Failure song? How does that even happen? I'm just remembering the jam sessions that Greg and I were doing around that time, and I just loved both. There's basically just two bass parts in that whole song, the verse and the chorus. And they were very different sounds. One was super distorted and had a kind of crazy stereo effect on it. Didn't know what it was going to be. I couldn't think of any vocals for it at all. I was like, how am I going to sing over this? I know I just like this. Came back to it like a week later, just pulled it up, an MP3 of that drums and bass thing, and was like, I got the vocals. I use the voice record on my phone all the time. A lot of songwriters use that these days. So it's just picking up the speakers in my studio, and I'm just started singing. Even some of the lyrics right then came out. And then it took me like maybe 2 or 3 days to you know, really arrange all the lyrics and rearrange the song around the lyrics. And then I added what little guitar is on there, which is mostly just feedback and one little clean arpeggio.
Had a piggy bank like a lion's head, knocked it off the shelf, broke down by the bed. Pennies from a skyscraper can kill. I've lined up my change on the windowsill, watched for hours, people down below. The wind has frozen my eyes, lost the courage, could not push them off. Hold my head inside.
Okay, so Pennies is, I think, one of 2 or 3 songs from the last 2 new records that we resurrected from the 90s. That one in particular, I definitely remember writing that song in the apartment that Greg and I wrote almost all the songs from Magnified. We both lived in the same little apartment in Sherman Oaks. At that point, it was kind of like, well, is this really fitting with what we're doing? It's kind of folky in a way, and it's a ballad, but I kind of wrote it as more of like a throwaway. I wasn't taking it too seriously. Greg really liked it. He was like, that's a cool song. We should do something with that. Never really did anything with it back then. I just recently discovered that that song was fully recorded with Steve Albini in 91, but we never mixed it. So it didn't appear on any of the half inches or anywhere. It was only on the multi-track, but I got all those multi-tracks and I was just going through them, and I was, Pennies? It's a full version of the song. I think what happened is, you know, we listened to that demo and really tried to kind of capture the vibe of that. We did add more lyrics. I'm pretty sure we added more lyrics in like a new bridge or something. We fleshed it out more for the most recent version of the song.
I know you're giving
That's my favorite drum sound on that record, by far. I mean, like, the drum sound we got on that one, I've already sampled it. I won't be using it when we're writing, basically. It was a tricky thing, like, getting a kick drum to really speak in a track without being overly clicky on the high-end attack is always a bit of a challenge. It involves, you know, some ambience. You want the room being excited a little bit by the kick. Right pitch of the kick drum. You know, it's a lot of different factors, but that one just really worked out. And I knew it was happening when we were recording it, and it was just sinking in with the pitch of the bass. You know, 'cause the bass is basically one note for all the verses. I've recorded Kelly quite a few times now, and I've played quite a few shows with him, so I am so familiar with his style, I almost don't know how to describe it. To me, Kelly is kind of like, for me personally, it's the bass line. And the level of his abilities at this point in time are just so, they're very high. I mean, he can take notes, you can give him a complete pattern change in the middle of recording a song, say, you know what, forget that part in the bridge we told you about. We want you to just like do some crazy tom beat. And he'll come up with something right on the spot, really cool, boom, record it. Oh yeah, the riff, the main riff, yeah. That's one of those kinds of riffs where if you double it, it loses its ferocity. Like, you know, we do a lot of doubling of parts, especially rhythmic parts, and even lead parts, but that was one where as soon as we started doubling it, I was like, stop. It's like, it just blurred it too much and you missed the kind of nastiness of the bends, and you couldn't appreciate the tone of the guitar. So we left that one. So that song, really, the only thing that's stereo is the room mics until the chorus. That was a song that was actually two different songs. I can't remember exactly how it occurred, but, or at least I do remember there being a wholly different verse for Found a Way. I think it was that the original verse was just a little too on the nose in terms of the way it related to the chorus. And we wanted something to be more contrasty. It's way more ethereal and sort of moody, and then the chorus comes in with like the hard rockin' guitar riffs. The one thing I will say about the rockin' guitar riff in that song and the chorus is that we do still occasionally use analog pedals in front of the axe effects. And that riff features the vintage Mutron octave divider that I have. The way that thing produces a octave below what you're playing, you can blend it in, and the way it tracks, it does not track perfectly, but the way it goes off course is really cool. It just adds a certain like chaos element to what you're playing, you know, it just kind of, it rips basically every once in a while, loses its tracking, but then it comes back and it's just, I don't have an octave divider in a digital plug-in form or even another pedal that sounds quite like that one. This one was definitely Frankenstein together, but I really like the way it turned out. The chorus that you just heard in that song was the bridge for 6 months. I mean, it was like we had a totally different chorus, that was the bridge, and everyone was just going, why is this song not good? Why when this song comes on, when the chorus comes in, I'm like, I want to go to the next song, you know? Like everything up to there was great. And I was really mad about it because I really liked the other parts in the song. And I was like, well, what can we do? And then I heard, for some reason, I heard an old song of ours from Fantastic Planet, Solaris, which is one of the few songs that we have, maybe not few, we probably have a handful of these songs, where instead of the chorus like getting heavier or louder or more intense, the chorus actually gets smoother, quieter, more open sounding, kind of like that, basically. And I was like, why don't we do that? And I started trying to come up with some new chords, and then I was like, wait a second, I'm playing the bridge right now. And I was like, played the bridge, and I was like, oh. Did a quick edit just on a stereo file of throwing the bridge where the chorus was, and it just worked right away, even without vocals, because the bridge didn't have vocals. So we had a good musical chorus now that I was happy with, and it was just a matter of writing new vocals for it, and that's what we did.
Well,
That's a Greg song. You know, it's funny when you're in a band, it's pretty rare that like a band member will come in and say, guys, I've got a great new song, you're gonna love it, you know, because no one wants to set themselves up for, we don't really like it, you know, or a negative reaction. What you do is pick up a guitar and you just start playing something while the other person's going to the bathroom or whatever, and then it's like, look, what is that? What are you playing right now? Is that a cover? No, I was just messing around today. Oh, really? So you've got 3 parts and you were just messing around. So yeah, of course, he had that lovely guitar arrangement, you know, finger-picked acoustic thing, and I was just like, that's gonna be a great song. So I think we just recorded that, got a really good capture of him finger-picking the song down. Maybe we did a double. I think an electric comes in to support that as well. One of my favorite things to do with Greg when he's doing a finger-picking part is to have him do it on acoustic, because he's really quite good at that, and then double it with my Les Paul on the neck pickup with like a clean, basically a clean sound with just a tiny bit of hair, you know, or maybe a compressor pedal in there or something, you know, and just kind of sneak that in. It just gives this real 3-dimensionality to the part. Second favorite drum sound on the record. Definitely wanted that really deep, fat, sort of Fleetwood Mac kind of snare drum. Yeah, just a really cool ballad. The other thing that's interesting about that is that I've been, since, you know, Greg's role in the band has basically increased album over album since Fantastic Planet, I've been really trying to encourage him to sing more and actually sing lead vocals if he feels like it. And he's really featured on this song. That's not all me singing. I think it's just me in the chorus, but the verses are kind of like we're going back and forth, which was kind of a new thing for us. kind of layer guitars with two different intents. Sometimes we just want the double to be a double with the same sound as tight of a performance as we can get, or, you know, maybe not too tight, because then it sounds a little mono sometimes. But there's a lot of Failure songs where it's basically the same kind of sound, left and right rhythm guitar, right? That's standard recording technique. This song's a little different though, because not only is there, like in the first half of the song, it's basically 3 different guitar tracks with 3 pretty different sounds. 2 different electric guitars. I think the main guitars that we used on this record were either the Les Paul, my 76 Les Paul, or my 67 Jazzmaster. They're very different sounding, but they sound really cool together, and an acoustic. The cool thing about the way he played it is that while the parts are all very similar, the strumming, the chords, on certain tracks, he's leaving out or emphasizing a different part of the chord. So it's kind of, they're not straight doubles in any way. They're more like a painting of these different tones. One thing that we discovered playing live, I think, touring for Magnified in like 93, 94 time, was that we loved extending our outros and almost turning them into jams. But we found this little trick where, like, if you get into this really hypnotic thing in the outro of a song, and then you change the bass note, and it can really change the whole mood or give it a lift, especially if the drummer knows it's coming and maybe he switches from riding on the ride to riding on a crash, or goes from the hi-hat to the ride or something. It can really create a kind of interesting moment. And we did that at least a couple times on Fantastic Planet. Like, I'm thinking specifically of the end of Another Space song. That has one of those moments where, like, during the fade out, the bass changes the key of the song, essentially. And I know Greg loves those moments. So on this song, on Apocalypse Blooms, he cultivated that for sure. He's like, I want a big, big change here. You know, we have this love of 70s prog rock, you know, or whatever you want to call it, whatever Pink Floyd is or was. And, you know, sometimes it really comes out in a pretty obvious way. I have not actually listened to these songs in quite a while. In fact, I've mostly lately been listening to older Failure stuff as I'm restoring all of those first 3 albums right now. So to get to hear these albums today was actually really cool, because I can kind of hear the evolution and hear how we're still kind of the same band, but like we don't do the same stuff anymore. We don't play the same kind of guitar parts. Some of it's similar, but like we're making different choices now. And I don't know if I'll truly have that experience of listening to my music the way, you know, a fan would, but I actually kind of pride myself on having a lot of, or at least some objectivity. It's always great listening to stuff you haven't heard in a while, because that's when you can really have those like objective moments where it was like, okay, was a mistake. Or that is awesome. Or like, no, seriously, like we're just listening to Found a Way, and I'm not so convinced that that was the way we Frankensteined that together was a total success. Somewhere between 30 and 50% of the last 5 years since we rebooted, I spent on failure. The way that side of my career works with the other side of my career, which is helping other artists achieve their goals with their albums, whether it's mixing or producing. Primarily it's mixing these days. It's just it's a really great synergy because they both feed into each other. I learn things when I'm working with Greg and in Failure that I can apply to when I'm mixing Jimmy Eat World. And I learned something when I'm, mixing Paramore and working on writing a Failure song. They talk to each other, and learning new techniques and tricks and stuff from other producers. I mean, that's one of the main things I love about mixing per se, is that I get to listen to what these guys do, and some of them are really talented and unique voices. Not just the artists, sometimes the recording techniques are really interesting too, and you call them up, how'd you do that? Like, this is awesome. So it's kind of best of both worlds. I get to be an artist, but I also get to feed off what other artists do. At this point, since we rebooted, it's freaking awesome. It's just so cool. We're very different people. But when we share the goal of making music, it's like there's just something that clicks. It's just so weird. I've never had that creative relationship with anyone else. Part of it's because I think we really challenge each other, and we're not afraid to criticize or say you can do something better than, come on. But no, there's something weird. I mean, people ask me to describe what is the Failure sound. Well, to me, it's me and Greg getting in the same room together. And if we finish something, a song, that we both kind of signed off on / like, that's the sound of Failure. Because we're both pretty particular about what we like and don't like. So if we can actually finish something, chances are it's going to be decent, I think, because we both are very, very kind of critical and very, we try to push each other to do good work.